the market, with on average about 30 million litres of diesel per month. Broken down, 24 billion on diesel generators gives us about 24,000 to 30,000 generators depending on the cost of each generator in Nigeria. This means that the jobs of manufacturing, give or take, 30,000 generators alone has been lost, as these sets are now being imported, as many currently rely on generators and other alternatives for power. Those who can afford the service get diesel delivered to their homes. To ensure that the process is not only seamless but accident-free, here are some tips from the zonal commander of the Enugu State Fire Service.
The major precaution to be taken is to make sure that the pump is not too close to the tanker in case there is leakage, and the usage of foam, especially close to where they are dispensing the petroleum products, because there's likely to be reaction, and the reaction could actually lead to fire outbreak. You know, our people are always doubting. When you tell them not to use phone, answer call, or use their phone touchlight close to where they are dispensing, even ordinary fuel, there's a very high tendency of fire outbreak in that kind of situation. And then most importantly, it will be better if the discharging is done when the sun is not intense, because the intensity of the sun would actually help in raising the tendency of fire to occur.
Others buy petrol or diesel from the filling stations and transport it to their various generators. Some parts of Lagos enjoy many hours of power daily, while some even go months without electricity. The alternatives so far are inverters, solar panels, generators, and rechargeable lamps. Recently, gas-powered generators have been added to the mix.
Our office off Providence Street, we use generator 24 hours.
And I run my generator 4 to 5 hours a day.
I use generator 7 hours in a day.
I use generator about 2 hours every day.
I use generator 2 hours a day.
The issue of how much damage is being done through noise pollution and the emissions from the generators is the subject of another Plus TV Africa report. For now, though, what you can do is ensure that in your attempt to provide yourself with comforts of having electricity, you do not, in the process, create dangerous situations.
We on this gen every day because there's no light in our country, and we are tired about all these things. But what we are praying now for the government to come and help us and fix the light.
For Plus TV Africa, I am Fatima Ibrahim reporting.
There used to be a village here, now there's only sand. Soil erosion over the last few decades has swept away anything that grows. Geographers from the University of Niamey have come 20 kilometers outside the capital on a survey. Rakiatou Amadou and Abdoulaye Baba are both specialists on the subject of erosion. We in Niger use large areas of land to cultivate very little. People have to change that. We've degraded the soil everywhere. We put too much pressure on the land, and that's how erosion continues to spread further. We need to change people's behavior to help preserve the environment. 2 kilometers away, a reforestation project is underway. It's taking years. The geographers are trying to discover what plants grow fastest here. That's the only way they can help farmers find food for their animals. We have these trees here now. Through this work, we have groundwater here. Now you can see the regeneration and the effects. The soil is fertile again. The water flows back to the river, and the groundwater levels have filled back up. Sani Ibrahim took a doctorate in Germany and has now returned home. He wants to help with the challenges, but he's still waiting for a job. My friends from Germany said I'm the first crazy African they've ever met. What they meant with that was that everyone wants to go to Germany, but I also wanted to come back. I told them that my home is in danger, and so I have to immediately return because they need me here. The geography faculty in Niamey is one of the largest in the country. Erosion and desertification are two issues that will keep young scientists here occupied for years. And they see their future in Niger. There are many schools that have opened up recently, also new universities. There are lots of opportunities for us young scientists. I would really like to get my doctorate, to finish it off, and then to evolve further in my career. If that works out, Rakiatou Amadou would be the first female to receive the degree at this institute, and that would be good for the country. The geographers need all the help they can get to prevent the desert from reaching the capital.
Hello there, many thanks for joining us in News on the Hour and Plus TV Africa. I'm David Alabian here, the stories making the headlines. Now we begin our news bulletin at this hour report across Nigeria. Security matters fast. The police have just ended the siege on the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly. The assembly had been cordoned off by armed police personnel on Wednesday, following a crisis that erupted on Monday. The Speaker, Onofiok Luke, had declared the seats of 5 lawmakers who had defected from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress vacant, a situation which later led to the alleged thugs disrupting plenary. Subsequently, on Thursday, the Senate ordered the police to immediately vacate the assembly and not prevent legislators from getting in. And moving on to other developments, Nigeria's former president, Goodluck Jonathan, has told the president, Muhammad Buhari's administration, to leave him alone and face Transparency International, who claimed that Nigeria was more corrupt today than under the last People's Democratic Party's government. In a statement released by Jonathan's media office and signed by his former media aide, Renan Mokri, the presidency is showing signs of guilty conscience in its manner of response to the content of the new book launched by the former president, titled My Transition Ours. Part of the statement read, "This is an administration where Minister of Power Tunde Fashola tells the Yoruba ethnic nationality to vote President Buhari and the Southwest will get the presidency in 2023. The next day, Boss Mustafa, the Secretary of the Federation, told the Igbos to vote for President Buhari and get the presidency in 2023. They cannot even harmonize their lives," end of quote. And spokesperson of the Atiku campaign organization, Segun Shomi, and Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, have locked horns at the first 2019 presidential debate hosted by the Osasu show held in Abuja, the nation's capital. President Muhammad Buhari of the All Progressives Congress, APC, was not represented at the debate, which other presidential candidates were in attendance. Shomi said, quote, "We were able to privatize some key sectors, which expanded the ability to create jobs, expanded the ability to be sustainable, and they were able to bring business discipline into the running of government," end of quote. And during the administration of Obasanjo, privatization was embraced. Meanwhile, the Minister of Transportation, Amechi, disagreed from the audience, saying the privatization carried out by the PDP was not for the benefit of the public, but rather to enrich the pockets of their cronies. And mixed reactions continue to trail the Sunday inauguration of the campaign policy documents of President Muhammad Buhari and the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar. President Muhammad Buhari, who is the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, and Atiku Abubakar are the leading contestants in the presidential election slated for February 16 come next year. The president unveiled a campaign document called Next Level, while the PDP candidate released a document titled Let's Get Nigeria Working Today Again. The two documents have elicited different reactions. I spoke with Duke Okuta, a public affairs analyst, on the political document and the highlights of the policies. I believe that you've already seen these two documents. Doing some sort of comparative analysis, first and foremost, what are the striking areas that you think we should assess as a people and as a nation?
Well, it's very difficult to compare because the two documents are very different in their formats. Atiku's document is very much a comprehensive analysis of the Nigerian problem and the way they see their policies addressing those issues and the prescriptions that they've got in mind for dealing with them. And it covers a wide range of portfolios, which the Buhari document does not. First of all, the Atiku document is 186 pages, and the Buhari document is 14 pages, I think, or 14 or 16 pages. So that gives you an idea of the kind of depth that exists in one and the kind of shallowness that exists in the other. So from that point of view, it really is very difficult to compare the two. But obviously, if we pick the individual elements in them where they both have some sort of common ground, like as you pointed out earlier, areas like power generation, for instance, or job creation, and so on and so forth, we can begin to see that yes, I mean there is intent in both policies, very clear intent. But the major difference is that whereas the Buhari policy simply tells us what he's going to do for us, the Atiku policy starts off by analyzing the situation as it is. I mean, we look at the current situation where we are, and they look at policy objectives and then what he calls what we will do.
But let's take a look at the Atiku plan, for example. Now, if we're looking at creating 2.5 million jobs annually, is this really feasible as compared to having all of the social intervention programs that the Buhari-led government is trying to push? Because if you're trying to empower people, yes, you definitely create jobs, but it's not really being so specific. But do you think that possibly the Atiku plan might just be a little bit too ambitious?
I think the Atiku plan is ambitious. I mean, in fact, his entire program is very ambitious.
And even looking at the power generation, because by 2030, generate about 20,000 megawatts of power.
Yeah, it's extremely ambitious, but the whole thing depends on how much the economy grows. And if you look at the Atiku program, he's hoping to achieve an average 10% growth in GDP over the next 6 years. But the curious thing about the Atiku policy actually is the fact that he's giving us predictions way beyond the end of his first term. So, his first term, if he does win the election, will take him to 2023, isn't it? Because it's 4 years from 2019. But the predictions he's giving us is mostly
about
up to 2025
and 30.
Absolutely, which is 2 years beyond his term. So the implication of that for me is that there is a political game going on, because it gives him an opportunity at the end of his first term to say, hey, we haven't got there yet. We've got 2 more years to go before our predictions begin to come on the table for you to assess. So I'm not happy about that. It would have been good for us if he could have told us what he actually intended to achieve in his first term of 2023. But nevertheless, if, as he says, he expects to generate growth of 10% annually over the next 6 years, and that would take our GDP up from its current $500 billion to $900 billion a year, that would mean effectively that the economy has grown almost twice as much. Exactly. And therefore, jobs will be created. Economies don't grow without jobs. People have to make this money. So we can expect that to happen if that prediction were true.
Now, let's also take a look at infrastructural development. I looked at the 2 documents, but I didn't really see any concrete elements there talking about intermodal means of transportation. We have Nigeria growing, our population is increasing, yet we just say, yes, we'll construct rail, but there is no sort of synergy or merger when it comes to these variety of means of transportation that we're supposed to be utilizing. Abroad, you have the rail network, you have the water transport, air transport, road transport, but these 2 documents are not sort of having that sort of foresight.
Well, I mean, the Buhari document actually does mention specifically some very important rail projects, but again,
it's not intermodal.
And also it lacks detail, because at the end of the day, for instance, he talks about we know already about the West-North railway line. We know the Kaduna-Abuja railway line is already in place, but it talks about the Southeast to Maiduguri line, and then he talks about it starting from Aba or going into Aba, presumably from Port Harcourt, and then he says it will go through all the Southeast states and then all the way up to Maiduguri. And the existing railway line that we have in that region doesn't go through all the states. It goes in a straight line from the south in Port Harcourt all the way through Enugu up to Maiduguri. So for him to be able to do that, he has to divert into Anambra and go. He has no detail on that, and that becomes a little bit curious. So it becomes more like a wish list, and that's what I'm saying. I'm seeing the Buhari document as a wish list. Nothing wrong with a wish list, but a wish list has now got to be supported by the substance of how you are going to achieve it, and most importantly, how you are going to fund it. And again, this is where the Buhari document is lacking in detail. But as you say, maybe he's holding something back to put back in front of us before the election. But then that's February. It's not that far to go. And the electorate, the people need to understand how he intends to fulfill this wish list.
Let's also take a look at the countdown to the presidential and vice presidential elections coming by December and then January.
Yes.
What should Nigerians also be looking out for and then question? Because this is a debate where we get a feed of what their mind really has to offer.
Well, frankly, the most important thing is interrogation. I think we've had a government in power for 4 years. We need to interrogate that government and get them to show us what they have done for us, get them to show us where the shortfalls are and why the shortfalls have actually occurred. Because when we know that, then we can ask the question, how are you going to ensure that it doesn't happen again in the next 4 years? That interrogation is very important. So the presidential debate becomes important for Buhari and Atiku and anybody else, Ezekwesili and who else is coming into to run for elections, to come out and tell us why Buhari is defending his policies and his achievements. The new guys will be telling us exactly how they intend to outperform Buhari's achievements of the last 4 years.
Thank you very much for your time. Definitely, we'll be looking out for implementation of all of these policies, and hopefully it's not just mere promises. We've been speaking with political affairs analyst. And moving on, the National Emergency Management Agency has received another batch of 174 stranded Nigerians from Libya. The returnees arrived at the cargo wing of the Murtala Muhammad International Airport at about 1:10 a.m. on Friday. The acting zonal coordinator of NEMA Southwest Zonal Office, Segun Afolayan, said after profiling the returnees that they included 61 female adults, 4 female children and 8 female infants, and also 91 male adults, 6 male children and 4 male infants, along with an unaccompanied male child. They were brought back in an Al Barak airline Boeing 737-800 aircraft by the International Organization for Migration and the European Union under the Assisted Voluntary Return Program. You're watching news on the hour in Plus TV Africa. It's now time to take a quick break. Stay tuned for the stories making the headlines. Glad to have you back, and if you're just joining us, you're watching news on the hour in Plus TV Africa, and it's now time to bring you reports from other parts of Africa. And according to Ayahare, an online Zimbabwe newspaper, there are at least 3 casualties resulting when a certain light aircraft crashed in Majareje High Hills in Zimbabwe on Friday. It cannot be immediately ascertained if there are any survivors. It was reported that the plane, Cessna 182, is registered to Executive Air PVT Limited of Harare. The bodies at the scene were severely mangled, making it hard for the authorities to identify them. However, the police recovered a Finnish identity card, Visa Financial Services card, as well as a passport. We now cross over to Angola, where the president, João Lourenço, on Thursday compared the fight against corruption in his country to touching a wasp's nest. A day after his predecessor, José Eduardo dos Santos, refuted allegations he emptied the state's finances. Dos Santos, who stepped down in September 2017 following 38 years in control of the oil-producing nation, has been accused by Lourenço of leaving state coffers empty. Dos Santos hit back against the allegation on Wednesday, insisting, quote, in September 2017, there was about $15 billion in the National Bank of Angola, end of quote. Since coming to power, Lourenço has fought against corruption while also removing figures associated with the previous regime, including deposing Dos Santos' daughter from the helm of state oil giant. The news continues after the short break with reports from the foreign scene.
Mr. Bello speaking. Who is this?
Hello, Mr. Bello. My name is Gloria, and I'm calling regarding the family savings scheme form you dropped off last week. Do you remember?
Yes. I remember now.
The form is missing your signature. Do you mind stopping by sometime this week?
Don't know if I go do water.
Not a problem. We will come to you.
We go walk with you. No matter where you stay, we get you from mine. We go follow penny price. Say we get you from mine.
Everyone is on a journey to build a brighter future. Let's help you take tomorrow, today. Access Bank. Speed, service, security.
And on the international front, a government official has said a suicide bomb attack on a crowded festival and market in northwest Pakistan's northwest on Friday has killed at least 25 people and wounded about 20. The blast occurred at around the same time the three attackers tried to storm the Chinese consulate in the southern city of Karachi. 2 policemen and 3 attackers were also killed. The Karachi attack was claimed by a separatist insurgent group called the Balochistan Liberation Army and did not appear to be connected to the attack on the market in the northwestern region of Orakzai. Reports showed footage of military officials cordoning off the bomb site. The Pakistani military stepped up operations along the border in 2009 and has managed to clear some areas of militants. Now, India and China have strongly condemned Friday's terrorist attack on the Chinese consulate in Pakistan's southern city of Karachi, in which 2 Pakistani police, 2 civilians and 3 terrorists were killed. According to India's External Affairs Ministry, the perpetrators of the terror attacks should be brought to book as soon as possible. Similarly, the Chinese embassy in Pakistan confirmed on Friday an attack against the Chinese consulate general in Karachi insult Pakistan and strongly condemned the terrorist attack. Meanwhile, Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan has condemned the attack and ordered a complete investigation into the incident, and elements behind the incident must be unearthed. And that's it on our foreign news package. It's now time to take a flip to the world of business. And in business news, it is how the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, and the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, are to submit within 1 week the schedules of the 45 withdrawals made from the account of the Nigeria liquefied natural gas from 1999 till date. And that's a directive from the Senate Committee on Gas Resources. This follows the Senate panel's probe into the alleged mismanagement of the NLNG dividend account, as it asked the two federal agencies to specifically include the 22 schedules of dividend payments and withdrawals from May 2015 without the National Assembly approval. The chairman of the committee, Senator Basi Akpan, instructed the CBN to also include in its submission details of other individuals and institutions who also gave orders for withdrawals apart from the NNPC. Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Nigeria on Thursday says it is set to monitor the rate at which banks provide loans to politicians to finance their campaign spending ahead of the 2019 general elections. The governor of the Apex Bank, Godwin Emefiele, disclosed this while briefing journalists shortly after a two-day monetary policy committee meeting, which were held at the headquarters of the Apex Bank in Abuja. He further expressed optimism that due to past experiences, deposit money banks would not want to take excessive risks by increasing their lending exposure to politicians. And that's it on business news at this hour. Still ahead on Plus TV Africa News is our roundup on entertainment and sports. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
Ṣẹ́gun fún mi. Ó ṣe mo dúpẹ́ dúpẹ́. Gbogbo ilé lọ fi tó gift. Mo rí ikọ̀ tún ni. Mo sọ fún ẹ lójoojúmọ́ pé gbogbo tó ń ṣe fún mi, ọmọ á ṣe fún ẹ nílọ́po. Abiyamọ ayé, abiyamọ ọ̀run, wọ́n súre fún mi. Ìbàjẹ́ kéré ó tóbi kò ní kún ẹ́. Ọmọ òní ní kò gbé tiwa kò ń gẹ̀jẹ̀. Ọmọ òní tí ẹ lọ síbi tó ò lérò. Ní gbogbo ọjọ́ ayé ẹ ò ní rí bi. Bí wọ́n bá ń pín wàhálà ìdààmú, ò ní ẹni rówó rà. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni, ò ní kábàámọ̀. Ẹni tó máa bá ṣe tó máa kó bá ìgbé ayé ẹ kò ní bẹ́ẹ̀ rí, wọn náà ò ní bá rí. Ọmọ adùn ẹnu, àbùkù ò ní kàn ẹ́ o. Ayé ò ní rí ẹ mú o. Mo sọ fún ẹni tinútinú tọkùtọkù. Lọ́lá ọyàn méjèèjì tó kù nígbà yà ni. Mo súre fún ẹ, eré àmú ẹ. Abiyamọ ayé, abiyamọ ọ̀run, wọ́n súre fún ẹ. Ó yẹ sáré gbé bàbá wọlé, ó ti ṣú ara, ó ti tọ́ ara, kò ní jẹ́ tiẹ̀. Wọnú ògo tuntun lọ, Olúwaṣẹ́gun. Wọnú ògo tuntun lọ. Ó yá wọnú ògo tuntun lọ. Wọnú ògo tuntun. Ẹlẹ́dàá mi.
Mami, airtime yín kọ́.
Ṣé ìwọ ti rókun tó gbẹ̀rí? O ti rí ọ̀sà kó gbẹ̀rí? Kò lè gbẹ́ ń bì.
Àmímà.
Àwọn ò lè sọ̀rọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀.
Lórí àtàwọn ọ̀rẹ́ mi.
Àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ ó yá fi sí spíkà.
Wọ́n ń gbọ́ yín.
Ní ẹ̀bùn ńlá tọ́mọ mi gbé wá fèmí yìí. Ọlọ́run á ràn yín lọ́wọ́, ẹ̀yin náà lè ṣerú ẹ̀ fáwọn.
Get 10 times your recharge value to call and browse anyhow. Recharge with *220 star the pin hash to enjoy this offer. Available to new and existing subscribers.
Mr. Anansa, èmi ń gbàdúrà, ìwọ ń polówó ọjà, ìwọ náà borí ẹ̀ wá kó wá gbàdúrà. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni, á dáa fún ẹ. Ṣé orí bó ti ń tajà fẹ́ lòmíì? Àwọn máa sìn ìwọ náà àdìrú wà dìgbà, ayé àdára, ò ní dààmú.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
I actually moved back to Nigeria to open a bakery. This was my goal. And everything I did up till this point was in preparation for this. First of all, life was great because I moved in 2015 right before the recession, right? It was awesome. I was like, wow, there's so much money out here, man. The cost of overheads, power generation, water. You have to be your own local government. And there are no tax breaks. Many places where, where they realize the small business environment is difficult would offer some kind of tax breaks and incentives. We don't do that out here. We want you to come back. We want you to, to start businesses here, but we're not going to do anything to help you. All my experiences in the past have led me ultimately to where I am now.
And in entertainment, veteran Juju artist King Sunny Ade is set to perform during the Africa International Music Festival, which is slated for the 7th of December through the 11th at the La Campagne Tropicana Beach Resort in Ibeju-Lekki, Lagos. This will be the second edition of the festival, which is designed to celebrate African music and culture. And according to the CEO of La Campagne Tropicana Beach Resort, Otumba Wale Akim Boboye, the platform is aimed at showcasing the best of Africans' creative masterminds to the world. The 3-day festivities will also feature fashion parade, comedy, camping, fishing, and much more. Other artists set to perform include Pasuma, Adekunle Gold, Fowls, Paul Play Dairo, Kola Ogunkoya, and many others. Still on entertainment, after leaving the music scene for 6 years, well-endowed actress Kosi Ojiako is planning a comeback. According to her recent post on social media, Kosi stated that her video shoot is next week and needs some tender loving care. In another post, she wrote, "Last night went out just to see Derile and specially invite him to my music video shoot." However, it looks like the actress isn't giving much away as she's yet to give out specific details on the release date. And that's it on entertainment. I'm Tokumbo Taiwo, and the best in sports coming up right after this.
And in sports news, PSG boss Thomas says it is possible for Neymar and Mbappe to be fit to face Liverpool in Wednesday's home Champions League group fixture, but forwards were injured during the international friendlies on Tuesday. Neymar suffered an abductor muscle injury in Brazil's win over Cameroon, and Mbappe hurt his shoulder in France's victory over Uruguay. They will not feature in PSG's League One game against Toulouse on Saturday. And still in sports news, England cruised into the Women's World T20 final, where they will face Australia after a dominant 8-wicket win over India in Antigua. Natalie Sciver dropped an 2 and Amy Jones punished India with an unbeaten 92-run partnership as they won with 17 balls to spare. After winning the toss, India collapsed horribly, losing their last 8 wickets for only 23 runs. England lost 2 early wickets, but Jones and Sciver saw them home. That's our news roundup of events at this hour from our Lagos studio. For more news, update and broadcast, please follow us at Plus TV Africa. That's in Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. And please do remember to subscribe to our YouTube page at Plus TV Africa. We'll definitely be back with more stories making the headlines across the African continent and the rest of the world. To join us again, I'm David Alabi. Many thanks for watching.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
Olajumoke Adenawa is a renowned architect, entrepreneur, radio host, and philanthropist.
She is the founder and principal partner of the elite AD Consulting architecture and interior design firm headquartered in Lagos, Nigeria. She had an early education kickoff as she was admitted into Obafemi Awolowo University at age 14, where she obtained her BSc and MSc in architecture. She's also an alumnus of Yale School of Management, Lagos Business School, and IESE Business School in Spain. She began her career as an architect in Tao Rikoka Associates and moved to Femi Majekudumi Associates, a leading design firm in Lagos, where she had the opportunity to work on the Federal Ministry of Finance project in Abuja at age 23. At age 26, she founded AD Consulting. CNN described her as Africa's starchitect, and The Guardian also described her as the face of architecture in Nigeria. She has taken up projects from Coca-Cola and L'Oreal, to list a few. She was a recipient of the International Alliance for Women World of Different 100 Award and was also featured in the Who is Who in the 21st Century by the International Biographical Center in Cambridge, amongst other awards. She is the founder of Awesome Treasures Foundation, a faith-based NGO. She is happily married to Olu Korede and has 2 sons. And that is The Mogul in 90 seconds.
That is how we get looped into a cycle of insanity, repeating the same thing and expecting a different result. That cycle of failure is unsustainable and it has to end now.
Perfection Train is back.
They take us to the push and start asking us to call our people to send money.
What can be done as an intervention for them right now to stop abuse of all children?
The political decisions people make will affect many lives. Many people see politics as the government and the laws being made. While that is true, it's way more complicated than that.
I don't know what type of procedure is this.
Some of you may be aspiring to positions of leadership in the political arena.
And I accepted full responsibility.
But the question is, why do you want to lead?
It has everything to do with you. Every law that is made will impact many. Sometimes the decisions do affect people negatively. Therefore, it's very important to note that every vote that you cast will either break or make people. Politics with GA brings you the latest political news as well as insight and analysis as we discuss the most important issues that matter.
Hello and welcome to Politics with GA. It's less than 3 months to the 2019 general elections, and the Independent National Electoral Commission has urged members of the public to ignore social media reports alleging it has given another opportunity for continuous voter registration before the 2019 elections. The Commission gave the clarification through its Twitter handle at INEC Nigeria on Thursday in Abuja. INEC described the report as untrue and advised the public to ignore it. You may recall that INEC commenced CVR on the 27th of April 2017 ahead of the 2019 polls. Although the exercise was suspended on August 17th, it was extended to August 31st after consultations with stakeholders. The Nigerian Election Debate Group and Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria have announced dates for the 2019 presidential and vice presidential elections debate. The presidential debate is fixed for January 19, 2019, while the vice presidential candidates are billed to have their debate on December 14, 2018. The chairman of the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, Mr. John Momoh, who is also the chairman CEO, Channels Media Group, made the announcement on Thursday at a press conference in Abuja. He said the debate would hold at the Transcorp Hilton Hotel, Abuja, and will be broadcast live amongst all BON member radio and television stations across the country. The debate will also be streamed live on all mobile and social media platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, to give it a global coverage. A former Minister of Education and the presidential candidate of the Allied Congress Party of Nigeria, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, has called on Nigerians to insist that all aspirants for the 2019 presidential elections participate in a debate. Dr. Ezekwesili made the call at a debate in Abuja, hosted by the Osasu Show and supported by One Campaign Connected Development and Yali. The ACPN candidate was present at the debate, but the People's Democratic Party candidate, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, sent his spokesperson, Mr. Segun Shoumi, as his representative, while President Muhammadu Buhari did not attend and didn't send any representative. Dr. Ezekwesili, while reacting to the absence of the two major contestants at the debate, said, "How can we aggregate the Nigerian issues when those that are meant to be here are not here? It gives me an opportunity that out of due respect for the Nigerian people that I agreed to be on this panel today. When I looked and saw the two main parties, one is absent, the second center representative, his spokesperson, I could have become arrogant and say, I am not going to sit here. But I decided to stay out of respect for you. So let me make this clear," she continued. "In this election, every candidate must tell the Nigerian people what they're about. I have done this out of respect for you, but you would have to join me in saying Buhari must debate, Atiku must debate." End of quote, says Dr. Obi Ezekwesili. 3 members of the People's Democratic Party have been put under investigation for possible sanctions on account of their suing the party's gubernatorial candidate in Osun State election, Senator Ademola Adeleke, over alleged fake certificate. I did mention in the last episode of Politics with GA that PDP members Olalekan Woshiyan, Thomas Ojetade and Shina Awodire will be recommended for sanctions in accordance to the party's constitution. The zonal secretary of the party, Reverend Bumi Jenyo, who made this known on Thursday, also told journalists in Ibadan that the members had employed blackmail to destabilize the party for reasons best known to them. Reverend Jenyo, who said the zone would soon recommend the alleged culprits for disciplinary action, used the occasion to dispel the claims by Ojetade that he, Reverend Jenyo, threatened him to withdraw from the suit they instituted against Senator Adeleke. The PDP scribing company of all the witness to the peace accord, a senatorial youth leader, Osun East, Mr. Kazim Ogushola, claimed that Mr. Ojetade willingly agreed to withdraw the suit following a peace meeting initiated by the zonal chairman, Dr. Eddie Olafeso, and was never at any point pressured to do so. The governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party in Lagos State, Mr. Jimmy Agbaje, has promised to probe Alpha Beta, the consultancy firm that has been solely in charge of the management of the state's internally generated revenue. Mr. Agbaje said apart from probing the Alpha Beta that has remained the state's consultant for 19 years, it would also investigate Lagos finances. Mr. Agbaje challenged the candidates of the All Progressive Congress, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, to tell Lagosians if he would probe the firm or not. The PDP candidate declared, "The day of reckoning is near." A statement by his Director of Media and Publicity, Felix Obagbina, quoted Agbaje as saying Sanwo-Olu lied by claiming ignorance that the APC regime had deliberately shrouded Lagos State's revenue and expenditure in secrecy. He says, and I quote, "Can Sanwo-Olu afford to bite the finger that fed him? The answer is obvious." And he says for Sanwo-Olu, who between 2003 and 2015 served as Commissioner for Economic Planning and Budget, Commissioner for Commerce and Industry, and Commissioner for Establishments, Training and Pensions, to claim ignorance of this perfidy is to take Lagosians for fools. The battle for the Lagos State Government House is projected by analysts to be a 2-horse race between the APC candidate, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and that of the PDP, Mr. Jimmy Agbaje. I spoke with Aremo Dotun Hassan, the Alliance for Democracy candidate for Etiosa Federal Constituency, about the state of Lagos and his plans for his constituency if elected as their representative. Lagos State is almost in an Obeshan state since Governor Akinwumi Ambode lost his primary elections to Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu. I'm sure you've noticed the increase in the volume of traffic, and it's thrown up severe hardship and discomfort for its residents. What is really happening in Lagos, and what can be done about this?
Well, we have to be very holistic about the Lagos as a state. The effect of Ambode loss to the primary election, I don't think that has been the causation of what is happening in Lagos, because Lagos have been in a perennial situation of this nature for a very long time now. So the situation is just that there have been lost and there has been a disconnect on governance for some time now, because people can hardly see the face of our governor. In the scheme of things, it's more or less the political situation have really engulfed the governance, and that is really a very big issue to our institutions of government.
Exactly, because one man shouldn't determine whether things should
Definitely.
work or not. You have institutions.
Definitely, definitely. When we can really understudy the prelude to the primaries and what are the real issues that really came up. So, but at the same time, it's really going to be a very challenging moment for the ruling party in Lagos State, because it will find it very to convince the people enough based on the policy plan of the incoming candidates. So definitely it's going to be a very good, it will set a new pace, a new horizon, and thank God other political parties are also have nominated candidates. So yes. I'm sure it's more or less that the template now is a fresh template for everyone coming. So there's no power of incumbency. So, and quite unfortunately.
So it means it's an open race?
It's an open race. There's no power of incumbency.
Now let's talk about you, Aremo Dotun Hassan. You're a lawyer, and you've been quite vocal and you've been an activist when it comes to issues in Lagos. Now you're running for, you're the Alliance for Democracy candidate for the Federal House of Representatives, Etiosa Federal Constituency. Why do you want to go to Abuja? Why do you want people to vote for you, and what's your track record?
Well, I think politics, to me, it's all about service. And I'm very keen and passionate about humanity, about my people, about society, and Nigeria at large. And that's always been my constituent. So, and as a youth, I believe there's a new vision for us to begin to see how to develop our society. And getting involved requires your will. And that's what I'm bringing on the table. That's why I'm coming in, and that's one of the major interests that align with mine to vie for the House of Reps, Etiosa Federal Constituency. And as a lawyer, I think, but maybe probably before now, being able to understudy my people's plight, and I felt the pain. I'm part of the society. So many issues have come to the fore.
What would you say are some of the immediate problems facing the plight of the constituents of Etiosa Federal Constituency?
Well, just as I've rightly said, it's about the social justice right of the people. Looking at infrastructure, definitely Etiosa is a bedrock, and the golden is the golden, egg that is laying the golden egg for the state when it comes to
richest local government in Nigeria.
The richest local government, but at the same time, in code, that's one of the worst areas to live in somehow. Because
it's quite an irony.
Yes, because the Etiosa have gotten a history of neglect. And, when you look at the people from the Morocco displacement to where they are now. So it took a whole lot of years before they even begin to experience light in all this area, like Ilasan and Ikota and so many other communities. So in the 21st century, if you still visit those communities, more or less like a slum. And it's even a slum. So it's very, very unfortunate that the government hardly pay attention into these communities. And that's why one of my key roles, which I've been playing in the time past, when it comes to their social rights, as you can imagine, we have 2 toll points that have really bring about more hardship on our roads and more traffic jam and all that. And it's resulted into a lot of other negatives. So these are issues that have been on the forefront challenging in time past. And for me to come out this time around, I believe I should be able to work on those rough edges, how to straighten it, how to get the people's will more represented at the federal level. And I believe strongly my coming in to fill those gaps is to ensure that the disconnect between the government and the people, we have a closer link. With my programs, I've been able to outline that I will run in an open door policy when it comes to my plans, and which I've been able to look at as a new dawn in Ichosa Federal Constituency.
Now let's talk about your party, the Alliance for Democracy. Do you think you have what it takes to go against heavyweights like the People's Democratic Party and the ruling All Progressive Congress in Lagos State? Because
Yes.
they seem to have the machinery and the financial muscle.
Yeah, historically, Alliance for Democracy is the foundation that laid governance as far as Southwest is concerned. As for, maybe predominantly Lagos,
1999, yes.
Lagos itself. And the foundation upon which APC is resting on today started from the Alliance for Democracy. So it's not just a new party. So we are equitably qualified and competent, especially with the programs which I'm bringing on maybe to the fore. And I think it's the best. And I'll be letting you into some of my programs. One, on education. I've been an activist right from my university days, and every other time that there are strikes, why do we have all these things? Because one thing, the educational right of the people, whereby the UN have a standard policy of 26% allocation to education sector, but that law has not been domiciled, and that's one of the major proposal bill which I'm working on, and that is the educational right law, is to give room for more to be placed, more funding to the education sector, so that the issue of ASU and every other infrastructure
is currently on strike as we
every other issue that escapulate that sector would have been solved permanently. Also, looking at the social justice right of the people, definitely from the way we have, that is what I've been able to devise that. Well, we have a lot of resources and every other thing, but I've been able to devise a law called the National Community Development Right Law. This law is to give room for every community, especially, not just my constituency alone, but nationally, to give room that there must be resource control benefit for every local government, whereby resources that are generated in every local government, there should be some certain percentage that goes as revenue in order for us to complement developmental and infrastructural needs of the people. If that law comes to the fore, there will be variable achievement at the grassroots.
Like a sort of derivation.
Derivation. Also, I've looked at the youth segment. I've been able to understand the fact that we need a National Youth Development Right Law. This law is also to encourage our youth to build in that confidence in them and ensure that that citizenship right as a Nigerian that is bestowed inherently upon them is visibly manifested. And that's one of the key things which that law will be doing, to protect that which ought to be their right in terms of social welfare right and every other right that is enabling, that will enable an average Nigerian youth to develop. Also, we've been able to look at the need to abrogate the Land Use Act. This will not just come like a daylight thing. I've been able to come up with a solution, because land in Nigeria today and the way it's being programmed under the Land Use Act, it arrogates a lot of power to the governor. And we'll be coming up with the land licensing and allotment law. So
now let's assume you make it to Abuja, and I'm sure you're very confident about your chances. You do realize you're the one of other 360 members from different political parties. You don't have executive power, so you need to form a critical mass before some of these bills can be passed. What type of strategy do you have in ensuring that you get the will of the people passed in Abuja, what the people of Etiosa Federal Constituency want? How do you make sure that you would achieve that when you get to Abuja?
Majorly as a candidate, I think my primus interest rests on my constituency. Then at a larger focus nationally as a rep member. So, my focal point, just as I rightly said, is centered on the people. I'm going there as citizen speaker. I want to ensure that majority of all this argument I'm putting to the fore will be reflected back to the people. Yes, I've been able to strategize a means of feedbacks of town hall meetings, of quarterly town hall meetings with my constituents and at the larger stakeholders with the means of ensuring those things which I'm working on are implemented to the latter. So these are going to be my technical measurement of gauging my achievements. So, but that notwithstanding, my policy plan, as I've rightly said, we are talking about provision of job employment opportunities for Nigerians, and so many presidential aspirants are now reeling out their programs of providing millions of jobs. But do you know one critical element that's going to provide those the job is power. If you don't have what I call the national power and energy right law, in order to ensure, power generation, the way it's been designed, we cannot develop. If we have enough power supply and the regulatory means whereby the right of the people, because now people are living in hardship on estimated bills, because the people's right at this level is not protected. Nobody is reviewing how the citizens are being protected as the final consumer of the same power. So if you need to generate the power, let it be we can reduce power generation to local government affairs. If every local government in Nigeria today generates at least 1,000 megawatts, we don't need all problems as far as we are concerned is half solved. Definitely, the woman in the market will use power, the artisans, even you and I, you spend less on diesel and all these extraneous wastages and leakages would have been solved. So these are interests I'm going there to protect. So for my immediate constituency, there are petitions which I've already outlined that I'll be working on. The issue of Lekki toll gate. Definitely, I've been at the forefront of fighting.
You want the toll gates to?
Definitely, as an economist, definitely, if the toll gate is removed, that would have been the best thing to happen to the people of Ichosa Federal Constituency.
So you want the toll gates to be removed?
Yeah. If that would have been succeeded, if I can succeed on that, I think that's the best I will be able to offer.
Now let's look at some other issues before we round up. You also happen to double as the founder and president of the Yoruba Council of Youth Worldwide. Now the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola, who happens to be a former governor of Lagos, was urging the people of the Southwest to vote for President Muhammadu Buhari in the 2019 elections to enable power shift to the region in 2023. As president of the Yoruba Council of Youth Worldwide, what do you make of this? And should we still be playing this politics of ethnicity in 2018?
I think I beg to differ with Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola on this point, because when competency and meritocracy is laid on the altar of mediocrity, we'll be reading out things like this. And Nigeria need not be deceived again with this deceitful statement, because reality is already, staring us in our face that the economic plan, as far as this nation is concerned, is not adding value to the people. The people, from security to infrastructural needs, is as if the people are more like a spectator. The new trade money affairs and all the ways going about is not going to the root of solving poverty. We cannot continue to run our nation like an experiment. No, we need to be
appealing to Yoruba people's votes.
For me, let Nigerians not be too ethnocentric about.
They shouldn't get carried away.
No. Let's look at the competency, capability, and antecedents.
Regardless of what it promises, that power would shift to the Southwest in 2020.
Let me tell you one thing. There are two things in the media there. That power is shifting to the Southeast and power is shifting to the Southwest. What kind of nature is that? Is to set the Southeast and Southwest on a collision course. And at the end of the day, power will be retained to the North, because if both of you are still wrangling on who to take power, the power revert back to who is giving the power.
Now, I want to ask you a question.
To me, I would
We've been having this kind of politics. We've been playing politics of ethnicity since. Is there any benefit
that accrues to one ethnic group if the president and the commander-in-chief comes from your region. If you look at Otta, you can't compare Otta to Singapore. If you look at Daura, you can't compare Daura to Dubai. If you look at Otuoke, you can't compare it to Berlin. So why do we keep playing this sort of politics?
You know one thing, we are really not addressing the issue where it ought to be. And one key thing which I've been able to outline, and it is a whole lot issue, and that is the issue of restructuring. We need a new people's constitution. We need a new people's constitution to fix this country. And one of my major and my number one primary duty, which I've outlined, is what I've called a bill on National Restructuring Affairs Commission, and another bill that is the National Plebiscite and Referendum Act, that Commission Act. These two bills is to bring power closer to the people, to ensure that these inequalities that we have in the land, this internal wrangling that we have between the federal and the state and the local government cut off totally. There is a need for us to really sit down, analyze through this commission, whereby it's an annexure of the executive, but the commission formation itself will have representation from all the arms of government. It will have representation from the 36 state governors. It will have representation from all the state assembly. Because the restructuring issue is not an a la carte, it's not a dash. It requires us to really sit back. How do we manage this exclusive list of a thing? If we are now managing the exclusive list and we are forming a new people's constitution, a true fiscal federalism, how do we begin to implement those white papers on CONFAP? How do we implement those needs policy? How do we bring in the SDG goals? How do we even review the 1963
It's quite a lot
Constitution?
of work, but it does start from somewhere.
Definitely, yes. That is why I'm going there to represent.
And on the foreign scene, Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman arrived in the United Arab Emirates on Thursday as part of a tour of several Arab countries. This is his first trip abroad since the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi that caused international backlash. The prince is also expected to participate in a G20 meeting in Buenos Aires at the end of the month, which will be attended by the leaders from the United States, Turkey and European countries. King Salman asked the chosen heir, known in the West as MBS, to conduct the tour based on his keenness to deepen the kingdom's ties regionally and internationally, the Saudi press agency reported. The killing of Jamal Khashoggi, a Washington Post columnist and a critic of the Crown Prince at Riyadh's consulate in Istanbul 6 weeks ago, has strained Saudi Arabia's ties with the West and battered Prince Mohammed bin Salman's image abroad. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has pledged to work with a linked cabinet of ministers in order to cut costs of running the executive. President Ramaphosa, who announced the mini cabinet reshuffle on Thursday, said the merging of the ministries is the first wave and many more changes are in the pipeline. He says, and I quote, "We're going to look at realigning government, and in anticipation of the sixth democratic administration, we would have completed this work," said the president. President Ramaphosa also explained that President Ramaphosa also explained that he is assembling a cabinet that are committed to serving citizens and helping the country grow. He says, "In making these changes, I remain determined that cabinet of our nation should be an appropriate mix of experience and capability, as well as gender and generational mix, that it should have members who are committed to serve and do so selflessly." The president's claim, however, contrasts his decision to keep embattled ministers Bathabile Dlamini and Nomvula Mokonyane in his cabinet. Thanks for watching Politics with GA. Until next time, I'm Benga Aboroa.
The political decisions people make will affect many lives. Many people see politics as the government and the laws being made. While that is true, it's way more complicated than that.
I don't know what type of procedure is this.
Some of you may be aspiring to positions of leadership in the political arena.
And I accepted full responsibility.
But the question is, why do you want to lead?
It has everything to do with you. Every law that is made will impact many. Sometimes the decisions do affect people negatively. Therefore, it's very important to note that every vote that you cast will either break or make people. Politics with GA brings you the latest political news as well as insight and analysis as we discuss the most important issues that matter.
It gets better, ordered another round. It gets better, ordered another round. It gets
I'm sure, as you can imagine, I get many. On a daily basis, I haven't shared this with anyone, but I reckon I get about like 100 people asking for help.
A day?
A day. That's a fact. I can prove that. You know, so rather than, going through all my messages, my letters, my emails, my DMs, I decided that, I think it's important as a young person to make sure that I'm making a difference. And it would be almost, I could have started a record label and been used those resources to sign artists, but education for me is so powerful. I would not be here, fact, whether or not, anyone can argue that I would not be here if not for my education.
Nowhere, baby, we no tire. And baby, for the line.
This TV station, Plus TV Africa, is designed to help to create a paradigm shift. But the more we tell our stories, the more we learn from whatever our past mistakes have been.
We can be much more than we are. We should be doing a lot in refineries.
And we are definitely investing in our staff. We're training, we're developing, we're creating the kind of workforce that will be the envy of the international broadcast. The quality of the reportage, the quality of our presentation, the quality of our production will be obvious. We're saying that we want to reach Africans wherever they are and get the message across to them. That's what Plus TV Africa is all about.
On Plus TV Africa News at this hour, condemnations trail Nigerian government silence over scores of troops killed in Boko Haram attacks in country's northeast. Also, United Kingdom pledges to give £50 million in aid money to help stop female genital mutilation in Africa. And on the foreign scene, U.S. and China trade war deepens as Chinese President and U.S. Vice President trade words at Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum. Hello, and many thanks for joining us on News on the Hour on Plus TV Africa. Here are the stories making the headlines. I am Ife Arono. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari is being criticized for his silence over the killing of several soldiers in a recent attack in Metele, Borno State. Reports in the country said terrorists on Sunday overran a Nigerian Army Battalion, 157 Task Force Battalion, in the village to kill at least 44 troops. The attack is among the highest since Buhari came to power in 2015, and it increases the pressure on him ahead of the election in February 2019, at least because he had claimed victory over the 9-year insurgency. Although the Senate, after 4 days on Thursday, shut its legislative activities to honor the fallen soldiers, neither the president nor the Nigerian army has reacted to the loss. More than 27,000 people have been killed in 9 years of fighting, while 1.8 million others have been rendered homeless. At least one police officer and one member of the pro-Biafra group are feared dead in a clash between members of the Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, and officers of the Nigeria Police Force, Nnewi Division, on Friday. Members of the pro-Biafra group were at Nnewi, Anambra State to drive home their stance of boycott of the 2019 election in the southeast, except a date was fixed for a referendum to determine freedom for the people of the zone. The protesters, numbering over 2,000, stormed the market, with each member waving the Biafran flag and chanting "No referendum, no election." Trouble, however, started when police operatives arrived at the scene in 3 Hilux vans and tried to stop IPOB activities. Members of the group were said to have first pounced on the police officers, destroying their vans and leaving 2 officers in the pool of their blood. It was gathered that the Nnewi market closed abruptly at about 2:30 p.m. when the incident started, as traders were seen scampering for safety. Well, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, is in talks with the UK's National Crime Agency, NCA, to expedite action towards the recovery of ill-gotten assets domiciled in foreign jurisdiction by Nigeria's politically exposed persons, PEPs. A release by the EFCC's acting head, Media and Publicity, Tony Orilade, said outside the recovery of assets, acting chairman of EFCC, Ibrahim Magu, in the course of a high-power meeting with officials of the NCA, will also present the Commission's position on ways to fast-track the extradition of all PEPs who have found safe havens in foreign jurisdiction. The EFCC chairman had explained why the anti-graft agency is bent on extraditing all PEPs. For instance, speaking on the former Minister of Petroleum Resources, Mrs. Diezani Alison Madueke, whose process of extradition from the United Kingdom has commenced, Magu explained that having waited for 3 years, the Nigerian government believes that it is time to initiate the extradition process. It will be recalled that in 2017, a federal high court in Lagos ordered the final forfeiture of 7.6 billion naira alleged loot recovered by the commission from Diezani. Well, President Muhammadu Buhari says leaders who undermine the economy by denying workers their benefits while looting public funds will not escape the current anti-corruption dragnet. The president stated this when he received All Progressives Congress delegation from Benue State, led by Senator George Akume, at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. President Buhari said the federal government's bailout to states and Paris Club funds were basically to alleviate the sufferings of the people, describing misappropriation as unjust and unfair to workers. The president told the APC delegation that the Federal Executive Council had been monitoring the plight of workers across the country and utilization of the bailout and Paris Club funds by some states. While expressing his appreciation at the delegation's visit, President Buhari said their visit was a morale booster. Well, mixed reactions trailed the Sunday inauguration of the campaign policy documents of President Muhammadu Buhari and the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. President Muhammadu Buhari, who is the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, and Alhaji Atiku Abubakar are the leading contestants in the presidential election slated for February 16, 2019. The president unveiled a campaign document called Next Level, while the PDP candidate released a document titled Let's Get Nigeria Working Again. The 2 documents have elicited different reactions. Earlier, my colleague spoke with Mr. Duke Oputa, a public affairs analyst, on the campaign policy documents, and here are the highlights.
I believe that you've already seen these 2 documents. Doing some sort of comparative analysis, first and foremost, what are the striking areas that you think we should assess as a people and as a nation?
Well, it's very difficult to compare because the 2 documents are very different in their formats. Atiku's document is very much a comprehensive analysis of the Nigerian problem and the way they see their policies addressing those issues and the prescriptions that they've got in mind for dealing with them. And it covers a wide range of portfolios which the Buhari document does not. First of all, the Atiku document is 186 pages, and the Buhari document is 14 pages, I think, or 14 or 16 pages. So that gives you an idea of the kind of depth that exists in one and the kind of shallowness that exists in the other. So from that point of view, it really is very difficult to compare the two. But obviously, if we pick the individual elements in them where they both have some sort of common ground, like as you pointed out earlier, areas like power generation, for instance, or job creation, and so on and so forth, we can begin to see that yes, I mean there is intent in both policies, very clear intent. But the major difference is that whereas the Buhari policy simply tells us what he's going to do for us, the Atiku policy starts off by analyzing the situation as it is. I mean, we look at the current situation where we are, and they look at policy objectives, and then what he calls what we will do.
But let's take a look at the Atiku plan, for example. Now, if we're looking at creating 2.5 million jobs annually, is this really feasible as compared to having all of the social intervention programs that the Buhari-led government is trying to push? Because if you're trying to empower people, yes, you definitely create jobs, but it's not really being so specific. But do you think that possibly the Atiku plan might just be a little bit too ambitious?
I think the Atiku plan is ambitious. I mean, in fact, his entire program is very ambitious.
And even looking at the power generation, because by 2030, generate about 20,000 megawatts of power.
Yeah, it's extremely ambitious, but the whole thing depends on how much the economy grows. And if you look at the Atiku program, he's hoping to achieve an average 10% growth in GDP over the next 6 years. But the curious thing about the Atiku policy actually is the fact that he's giving us predictions way beyond the end of his first term. So, his first term, if he does win the election, will take him to 2023, isn't it? Because it's 4 years from 2019. But the predictions he's giving us is mostly up to 2025
and 30.
Absolutely, which is 2 years beyond his term. So the implication of that, for me, is that there is a political game going on, because it gives him an opportunity at the end of his first term to say, hey, we haven't got there yet. We've got 2 more years to go before our predictions begin to come on the table for you to assess. So I'm not happy about that. It would have been good for us if he could have told us what he actually intended to achieve in his first term of 2023. But nevertheless, if, as he says, he expects to generate growth of 10% annually over the next 6 years, and that would take our GDP up from its current $500 billion to $900 billion a year, that would mean effectively that the economy has grown almost twice as much.
Exactly.
And therefore, jobs will be created. Economies don't grow without jobs. People have to make this money. So we can expect that to happen if that prediction.
Away from that analysis, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, has offered to provide details of the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas NLNG dividends account from 1999 till date to give the Senate and the general public a comprehensive insight into the operations of the account. Group Managing Director of NNPC, Dr. Maikanti Barrow, stated this at the hearing of Senate Committee on Gas, which has been mandated to probe the alleged unauthorized disbursement from the account to support importation of petroleum products to avert scarcity. The GMD, who was represented by the corporation's Chief Financial Officer, CFO, Mr. Ishaka Abdulrazak, in his presentation at the hearing on Thursday in Abuja, insisted that there was need to take a holistic look at the NLNG dividends account from inception rather than a limited view from 2015. As requested by the Senate Committee. The Senate Committee adjourned the hearing to 4th of December 2018 with a mandate to NNPC and the Central Bank of Nigeria to provide the details of operations of the NLNG dividend account before the end of November. While the possibility of collaborations between young innovators in Nigeria and businesses in Tel Aviv, Israel, was the issue of discussion at the HELP Fellowship induction of young innovators held in Lagos, Nigeria. Our correspondent Mary Chinda reports that the initiative seeks to encourage young Nigerians to explore the opportunities in entrepreneurship.
It was a gathering of millennials to chart a course on entrepreneurship and innovation in various sectors of the Nigerian economy.
Our business idea will be able to take up at least 2 million horticulturists from the labor market. Will give them an extra source of living.
The cereals in the market are not so affordable, so we're looking at targeting middle and low income earners. And so we have a formula already. We have a prototype of our formula, which we're still working on. So we're going to be having an accelerator program to gain traction.
What we intend on doing is developing a device that would help preserve these tomatoes, because over time we've gone around to find out that many people tend to start these tomatoes and 50% of them get damaged.
Brought together by the Help Fellowship Initiative on Leadership, they came to provide solutions to complex but important problems in the Nigerian society. Problems ranging from nutrition to alternative energy sources for agriculture to the preservation of the Nigerian cultural heritage, and then to the environment.